We've been talking about media lies, and who can forget the media's complicity in painting the violent BLM protests as mostly peaceful. Remember that image from CNN? People think it's AI these days, mostly peaceful protests as towns burn down. Well, the activists of the FBI who took a knee in solidarity with BLM and neo-Marxist, anti-American, anti-police movement, they've been reassigned. CNN reports these reassignments are viewed as demotions by many inside the FBI and come nearly 5 years after the episode that ignited a great deal of controversy inside the Bureau. Batya, I've got to say, I would have preferred sackings, but I think this is a good start. These actions by activists within the FBI, within the Justice Department, they have caused enormous damage. They've really undermined the public's trust in these institutions.
I think that's a really good point. You know, I remember at the time, actions like that were seen as unifying because you had all these protesters out there burning down these cities. And then you would have, you know, members of law enforcement basically like trying to signal, look, we're all, you know, one country. We're all like on the same side of this. We all want better policing. We all want fair policing. But I think you're totally right that what we know now about Black Lives Matter, which we didn't at the time, that it is such a, you know, decrepit, amoral institution, does not represent Black people or a unification of this country around, you know, the values that Dr. King espoused, but rather a real radical nature that does cast many Americans, including many police officers, as racist in a very damaging way. So it's really nice to see institutions taking stock of where we're at and a place like the FBI saying, look, we're going to stand for a very different kind of relationship between us and the public, and we're not going to give them any excuses to see us as on one side or the other.
Look, I challenge the notion that we didn't know what BLM was back then. I think we knew that they were open about what they stood for. They were open about their Marxist ideals, the fact that the three founders identified as Marxists, that they were anti the nuclear family. This was all on their official website. They scrubbed some of that in later years. And yet we had, I think to me, it's as a grosser betrayal of the American people as the media's complicity in covering up Joe Biden's cognitive decline. The fact that the media went along with this group, with these protests, with this mass destruction and mayhem across America as if it was some progressive movement, rather than a really quite a destructive anti-American movement that wasn't really interested in Black lives, Batya.
Yeah, you're definitely right about that. I was one of the people who was calling it a racial moral panic at the time and was, you know, quite nearly canceled for it, almost, you know, lost my job. And it was a very intense time because there was that feeling that the media was completely on the side of the activists. And I actually wrote a whole book about this called Bad News, How Woke Media is Undermining Democracy, about how basically the racial moral panic, all of this kind of far left woke ideology was a smokescreen for the ways in which the elites in the media and in politics and in tech and everything had become very wealthy at the expense of the working class. And so that wokeness and what Trump is doing with the tariffs and with immigration, it's all one and the same. He's fighting for the dignity of working class Americans, which was sold out by the Democrats who pretended that they were still representing the working class while actually themselves getting rich off of the backs of working class Americans. And then, of course, instituting these very, you know, unsafe ideology around defund the police and so forth, which poor and working class people and people of color were the most negatively impacted by.
Well, one of the biggest stories in the US for the last week or two has been this so-called Maryland man, Maryland dad. And the way the Democrats have gone into bat for this illegal immigrant who was deported to El Salvador and is a gangbanger. 2 courts have found him to be a member of MS-13. Well, Fox News has obtained a second protective order that was filed against this man, Garcia, by his wife back in 2020, which she accuses him of not just physical abuse and threatening her, but she also said that she has a recording there where he says he can kill her and nobody can do anything to him. I am in shock, Batya, that the Democrats are going to war for this man. I mean, what a stupid hill to die on.
It's really amazing that they're out here with their whole, like, je suis Kilmar, like, if they can come for the wife-beating, gangbanger, human trafficker, surely you are next in line. I mean, it's totally amazing. They just love to white knight for criminals. And, I think some of it they didn't know when they started white knighting for him. But, the idea that this is a person who's worth, doing anything for, that there was a U.S. senator who flew there to shook his hand, the hand that hit his wife while she was holding her child. It's so amazing. And all of the immigration hysteria right now of the babies that were deported, or, the people who only criticized Israel who are having their green cards revoked, it's all just hoaxes all the way down. And the reason for that is because the Democrats have nothing. Trump has outflanked them to the left on the economy, and he has outflanked them to the left on being anti-war. And he's not even a social conservative, he's a moderate. So he basically stole the Democrats' pro-working class agenda out from under them, and they have nothing left to fight him with. All they have is what they're doing, which is, let's go rescue the gangbangers. Let's stand for China and oppose tariffs, right? And let's try to get that border open again. It's so appalling.
Batya Ungar-Sargon, thank you so much for your time tonight.
Thank you so much for having me.